Hello, I'm the Mariner, a silly person on the internet who talks about the things that I like. In my last video on The Wandering Inn, I want to admit I made a slight error. I said the series was over 10 million words long. A statement that, while not technically untrue, is actually a far cry off from the real word count, which the kind YouTube people told me. And I thought to myself, wow, it's not as if it matters being off by a few words, right? Wrong. You see, those small few words that I was off by were around 3 million, if the YouTube comments were to be believed. And as I found some similar statements online saying the same things, let us run with it. So the actual word count for The Wandering Inn is about 13 million words, when I said it was over 10 million words. Why does this matter? Because it is a monstrous degree of error. Let me break this down for you. Let's say that, for example, I don't know, I wrote a 100,000 word book. The teeny tiny small margin of error I was off by is enough for me to have written my book 30 times over. That is just astonishing. It's amazing. I genuinely at a loss of words at how to properly convey what a feat this is. Pirate Abba is an incredible writer, and I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it because I thought that was cool. Nevertheless, let us carry on with The Wandering Inn, Volume 2.
Stuck in the middle of a forest made of flesh and bones, and they're all scared of a lost little boy who's lost his heart. Fear's not enough, they have to tear him apart.
If I was to describe The Wandering Inn's second volume in a single word, I think I would use the word comfortable. As with all good continuations, the paradigm shifts and changes and evolves, and I think one of the driving events for this change, but also the comfort of the overall plot of the volume, is the chance meeting that occurs in an inn. Just two people from the same world who, after so long, finally meet. And of course, the reason for the meeting is a little silly. It's nothing more than Ryoka listening to music with her phone and Aaron chattering away as she usually does. Of course, a moment later, the significance that they both know what an iPhone is makes itself abundantly clear. And it's fun, and it's satisfying, and it made me laugh, and it's also a little sad. Erin is just happy to meet someone from her world. She has dealt a lot with loneliness and homesickness, and so I think it was good for her just to have someone from where she came from. But then there is the other perspective, Ryoka's perspective. Let me ask you a question, my friend. What does it mean if there are two visitors from another world? As they say, dear listener, more than one means more than before. Where there are two, look for a score. The in-world, you see, is a somewhat static place. Skills and levels keep civilizations stuck in little loops. People don't really learn more than what leveling and skills give them. Say, for example, an engineer or builder. They may know how to construct siege engines, but they cannot properly mass-produce that knowledge because they merely listen to their skills rather than understanding the underlying principles that construction relies upon. In this way, technology is somewhat trapped forever at the stage it is currently at. We can make a 1 billion horsepower carriage that can plow through hundreds of millions of goblins. But once the person who knows how to make it dies, that is that. But let us say a slightly more clever than average person arrives here from some other world. The recipe for black powder is relatively easy if you know how. But even more simply, what about the basic application of mathematics? No, I'm not joking. Math, my friend, is that most frightening of weapons. It is the application and reapplication of the unseen forces of the universe to potentially devastating effect. Take, for example, the humble trebuchet, a machine complex in construction, but not in ingredient. If, say, this clever person of ours from another world knew the underlying fundamentals and could teach them, building dozens of such machines becomes far easier than if you had just a few craftsmen who listened to the strange leveling voices in their head. And what if such machines and siege engines and the knowledge behind making them fell into the hands of a species that could only level under certain conditions, like the Antinium? Antinium workers may be small and weak and would lose to sufficiently leveled knights, but give those same Antinium workers well-made crossbows, and the results become far less certain. So, while Eren is just happy to have made another friend, and she's cheering, she's crying, and she's hugging, Ryoka is in this mental doom spiral, considering all the terrible implications. But still, I think it was good for her. I think someone bright like Eren can be good for people with shadows like Ryoka. And in the end, I think she will benefit from the relationship. Ryoka is someone who needs friends, I think. As much as she can hate other people, I think it is also people that make life worth living. And so their burgeoning friendship is really something that I think makes this volume quite special. Eren, constantly warm and comfortable, if not somewhat naive, is a perfect counterbalance to Ryoka's erratic emotional state, where she shifts from a kind of cold, analytical aloofness to burning rage on a dime. And it's a really, really wonderful character dynamic. Chapters like when Eren uses Ryoka's iPhone to ruin a bunch of Dark Age Drake people with modern music are really fun. Eren is just having this impromptu music festival to draw customers, and Ryoka's just baffled. A side note I want to add is I love how Ryoka, this prickly, kind of nasty character, has all these songs on her iPhone that she is embarrassed about. It's just another little layer that I think adds something really special to her character. Sometimes when you drive alone on lost highways under the stars, you listen to songs that touch your heart. Songs that you will deny to your death you ever listen to. And so, the behavior of this social butterfly of Eren is just really alien to Ryoka, and in many ways, uncomfortable. But maybe with enough warmth, that icy wall around her heart might thaw. She could stop thinking, and for a time, just live in this comfortable moment. There can be few things more joyful than forgetting what we are, I think. Sometimes when you laugh and smile and dance and sing, that terrible thing you are becomes just a dream. And for a moment, blissful clarity. But then, of course, Eren had to go and ruin everything by adopting some rogue pyro princess robber. Why? Because Eren is Eren, of course. Leonette, I think, is a really intriguing character. She is a little bit similar to the visitors from another world in that she is a fish out of water. The only difference being that she comes from the in-world itself, of course, and from royalty. So you take a royal princess, very much in the same vein as like a Disney character, and you just hurl them out there into the wilderness, and the result is you get this really, really nasty, spiteful, and kind of casually cruel character. Of course, she is cast out and exiled from Lisgore for destruction of property, public endangerment, fire, which is in essence a death sentence to her. Rock cabs and goblins, they're gonna get her. She's dead. She's mega dead. And, you know, good for everybody. There's no way she's gonna survive that. Then Eren intervenes and invites her into the inn to work as a barmaid, saving her from a messy end. The result of her working as a barmaid is a disaster for the majority of the volume. Nothing Leonette says really even phases Eren, and she just throws insult after insult after insult, but Eren just carries on because that's how she is. But Leonette also does not entirely lack the rare ability of personal reflection. And there are little cases and examples here and there where that prickly and rotten thing that she is gives off small bits of warmth, the ability to change. And I hope Aaron's bet pays off. I hope that Leonette as a character develops and grows, and I have a feeling that her character changes will be quite fascinating. But while Aaron and Ryoka and all of their lovely, beautiful little friends live and laugh and sing and dance, there are others who exist just under the world of the mundane. Characters who scratch and scream for life, out of sight and out of mind. I am, of course, talking about the goblin and the skeleton.
Down, down to Goblin Town, down, down to Goblin Town, down, down to Goblin Town. You go, my lad. Whoa.
Goblins. You like them, I like them. Gobby goblins, sneaky goblins, stabby goblins, rich goblins. The great goblin of Tolkien's Legendarium, Skarsnik, the warlord of the Eight Peaks. These are two magnificently famous goblins whom I love both very much. The Great Goblin because he has an awesome song, and Skarsnik because he is Skarsnik.
No more bad luck, we can lead a war behind. Just keep in mind, goblins all around. Goblins all around.
I like goblins. They are nasty and commonly reviled creatures in almost all the works that they exist within. Petty and cruel, save for in the moments when they gather in their numberless hordes to bring the end of civilizations. Rags is a goblin born into a time of emptiness. The Goblin King has been dead for many a year now, and Rags lives in a tribe at the very bottom of the goblin hierarchy. She is small and weak and lives in a tribe not much better than she is. And her daily life just sucks. It's just horrible, you know. Goblins eat their dead to stave off starvation. They are prey and food for monsters greater than them. And guardsmen and adventurers kill them en masse. Of course, as an ex-guildmaster myself, I recommend any new adventurer, bronze rank or otherwise, goblin hunting for their first jobs. After all, goblineers can fetch a pretty penny at any local adventurers guild I have, you know. Goblins may be monsters, but even some monsters have feelings. People of all sorts kill goblins. Goblins kill all sorts of people. Who started it now, none can say. Rags was born into this world, her only birthright, the birthright of all goblins. Fear and hunger, with an unpleasant end waiting at the end of the line. But Rags has a few things going for her. One, she's pretty damn smart. And two, there's this human she knows who sometimes gives her like treats and snacks. Like, you want some cheeky? You want some snackies? And plays chess with her. Rags has a little bit of a better grasp on the ways of the world due to these things, but because of that, she is more than a little arrogant at times. This arrogance and cleverness and ambition eventually led the little goblin into a confrontation she couldn't hope to win. The small, flooded waters tribe to which she was chieftain was hunted by the Red Fangs of the High Passes, a goblin tribe led by a chieftain who long ago had been taken in by an adventuring party, a goblin who had become one of them, and a goblin who in time betrayed and killed them. Garen Redfang had come, but he did not come to destroy Rags or her tribe. Instead, he tested her in the only way he knew how, a trial of blood and steel. And she succeeded, and so Garen submitted. But why? Why would a chieftain as great as Garen Redfang surrender? What happens, my friend, when a goblin chieftain becomes big enough? What happens when they control something more? They become a goblin lord, of course, and a goblin lord is just a few steps away from a king. All peoples of the world, no matter creed or anything else, hunt lords when they appear. For all the peoples of the world fear a lord's potential. All goblins could feel it, the pull of a lord, drawing them in to become one with his tribe. But there was something wrong with this goblin lord, something hollow and sinister. And so Rags went with Garen to prepare for an uncertain future against this unseen enemy. And I wonder what fate will have in store for them. Knowing goblins, likely something awful. But there is someone else who also exists and scratches for freedom at the bottom of the food chain. One close to my heart, truly. The deer skeleton Toren. Toren is strange. With few exceptions, monsters in the in-world do not seem capable of leveling, which can often cap some of their strength. But Toren is different. Built by the necromancer Pisces, he alone seems to have been gifted this unique ability. A monster, a skeleton who can level. And as he levels and gains skills, his capacity for independent thought grows along with it. So you have this skeleton who is built for battle, war, killing, built to defend its master. And it is given as a gift to Aaron, who just has him do normal mundane tasks. He's a maid, janitor, cleaner. And it's just something he absolutely despises. But because of his binding magic, he cannot disobey her. So he, who cannot communicate, has been slowly growing in intelligence and levels, and has thusly been getting angrier and angrier at the things that he's been told to do. And Aaron is just blissfully unaware that she is a burgeoning, sentient monster just working as a janitor. And so she treats him like just some thing. So this skeleton, who wants nothing more than to rip and tear, is forced to be docile and menial, and it is just agony. And finally, he has enough. And while Aaron is sleeping in a sled, he just dumps her miles and miles and miles away in the wilderness. If she can't order him, then he doesn't need to follow her. And he immediately delights in his newfound freedom by indulging himself in all of his desires. He couldn't go around stabbing people before, but now things would be different. Toren the skeleton made no more. Who knew what special future fate had in store for this peculiar creature? But there's so much more to cover. There's so much more. Little details like the cause for winter in this world being different than in our own. You see, in this world, when winter arrives, it is actually brought by winter sprites, fairies, or fae, if you were. And like all good renditions of fae creatures, they are absolutely horrible. Just vindictive, petty, fanged, generally mean-spirited, nasty creatures. Which makes sense. They are creatures of forever. They cannot be bound by the same notions and moralities and sensibilities as any other fleshly mortal creature. They have principles and values, but they are often alien and strange to us. I love them. They are great, and it's an interesting little bit of world building that they come from somewhere else to bring winter. Winter doesn't just naturally happen in this world. They do not level as they are from some other plane of some kind. More secrets and more mysteries added to this world. And there's more and more.
Sense of humor too. The king has set a great reward of marriage and of gold. If you catch the funny man, or otherwise I'm told.
Like our friend Tom the Clown, another character from Earth sent to the blighted continent. Tom, I think, has one of the worst starts I've ever seen. It's not a good build. You see, there are no clowns in the in-world. Fools and other sorts of funny men, yes, but no clowns. And as I said in the last video, it is my belief that levels are based partially on perception. So the people of the in-world have no perceptions on what a clown is, right? But all the people who arrived with Tom and Tom himself have a great deal of associations and perceptions and belief on what a clown is supposed to be. And I'm sure, as you're aware, very few of those perceptions are positive. Joker, Pennywise, the other Joker, the one from the murder, kill thing, Needles from Fear and Hunger, which is just a reference to that other one. There's a lot. So the really interesting thing about Tom and his friends is that they've been brought into Rear, the Blighted Kingdom. And the leader of Rear, the Blighted King, actually summoned them in. He didn't pick them specifically. He was trying to summon in heroes to help him, because the Blighted Kingdom, it's a little bit like Cadia or the Wall. It protects the world from evil. Like, right, this whole island, just this continent, it just pours out like demons and Krellers and worse, and so they have these walls, and the king, and it's an infinite conflict. It's horrible, blood and just death, and it's awful. So the king summoned in Tom and his friends as heroes. As you might expect, some 21st century Americans did not live up to the hype. It's like, this guy's not an Aragorn. Let's just say that. He's not a Jon Snow either. He's not a Sly Marbo, right? So they've been summoned in, and immediately the king, he's not stupid. He figures out these are children. They are useless. So he just sends them off to this little backwater spot, and maybe they'll do something. And so they're in this backwater spot, but even in this out of the way hidden type of area, demons are still approaching, and the pressure is up, and civilians are dying, and it's awful. And how are these like 21st century, like this is not like Aaron in Lisgore. You can't talk to these things. These things are gonna kill you. They're gonna kill you. They're gonna eat you. You're dead. There's trolls, demon lady. You're done. And so all of this pressure, like Tom, he can't do anything. So he's just, I'm gonna be a clown. I'm gonna be a funny man. Maybe I can keep people happy. But all of the pressure and the sorrow and the terror, it's cracking his mind, and the levels he get actively warp and contort him in this sort of shattered world. He becomes a blighted clown of sorts, and it's really, really fascinating to see him struggling not to level, because anytime he levels, he slips more and more into this insane, funny kind of nightmare spiral. Very good stuff.
The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said. The chances, the changes are all yours to make. The mold of your life is in your hands to break.
But while all of these fascinating and wonderful and frightening things were occurring, something equally important occurred just out of view of the rest of the world. Nothing of perceived import, just a delivery, a congratulations, happy birthday. I think Ryoka's letter delivery will have some terrible, terrible consequences. Ryoka often ties herself to creatures that live for countless ages, beings with alien motives and terrible power, wintry sprites, deathless necromancers, golden dragons. A mortal does not come into contact with such creatures without treading very, very lightly. And I worry for her. I understand it somewhat, how she feels more connected to these peculiar and alien beings than with the sort of people more similar to her. But, nevertheless, all things come in tides. And, as fate would have it, a certain letter delivery put her in the same path as a certain goblin lord. A goblin with empty eyes, a goblin who let the dead as easily as the living. People who Ryoka cared about got caught up in it, and she asked the Fae for help. Bargains struck with eldritch creatures have a price. Always. Plots are in movement just out of sight of the mundane reality, my friend. While we eat and sing in homes and in inns, goblins and skeletons scrabble for life and freedom in the mud and darkness. Schemes of flowered politicians take root, and kings of faraway deserts gather their vassals for the future. But, more than that, there are the plots of the deathless, hollow-eyed necromancers and golden drakes who speak to sprites in contempt, just as the winter fairies laugh in mockery. The world moves forward, my friends, and I'm so terribly, terribly excited to see what will happen. But there is one last thing I want to talk about. Let me set the stage. Erin is missing, left out in the wilderness by a rogue skeleton. No one knows where she is, and so Ryoka goes to the only one who might help her, Teriarch the dragon. Ryoka at this point has lost friends over and over. The horns, the stone spears, again and again. She can't lose anyone else. And so in that age-old tradition, she challenges the dragon Teriarch to a duel of riddles. And that just takes me back, my friend, to when my father read The Hobbit to me as a kid. There's always something magical about duels of the mind, battles of riddles, and this one is no different. We have an audience of winter sprites as the dragon and the girls start their battle of wit and words, and it is awesome. The fairies turn reality to rhymes at one point, and the text of the story shifts and changes. Teriarch torches them in annoyance, and the battle continues. Ryoka and Teriarch are going for band in a war of riddles as the clamoring riot of the winter fairies scream, and the noise in the background, and it is just awesome. But as Ryoka is a clever character, she shifts from classical riddles into logic questions. And let me tell you, some of these just destroy me. I felt like the fairies on these ones, screeching about the dullness and borderline cheating of such questions. It is boring and it sucks. Logic puzzles aren't real riddles after all. I mean, some of these logic questions, they're like borderline impossible, at least for me, because I'm an idiot. So, I mean, you tell me if you can solve this, because, I mean, how's the dragon supposed to solve this? Okay, let me just, like, read out one of these. So, in a village, there are 5 houses. Each one is painted a different color, and in each one lives a different species. The 5 people who live in each house each eat a different kind of food, right? Practice a different kind of magic, and own a different kind of pet. The drake lives in a magenta house. The half-elf keeps shield spiders as pets. The human practices cryomancy. The purple house is next to and on the left of the puss house. Whatever. The owner of the purple house uses necromancy. The person who eats souls rears griffins. The owner of the fulvous house eats bees. Fulvous house eats bees. The person living in the center house practices chronomancy. The Antinium lives in the first house. The person who eats grass lives next to the one who keeps carnwolves. The house owner who raises talking mushrooms lives next to the being who eats bees. The being who eats pancakes studies pyromancy. The knoll eats bagels. The Antinium lives next to the ebony house. The grass eater lives next to the one who casts aromancy. The question is this: who owns the cryptworm? And I'm like, fuck, that's cheating. That's got to be cheating. Teriarch answers correctly within a single instant. Although Teriarch is immortal, much like the sprites, he's not the same. While the fairies hate such things due to their nature, the dragon Teriarch loves them. This dragon, this being, is in essence a living supercomputer. Not only does he possess monstrous physical power, as well as all the benefits a dragon might possess, but he also holds innate intelligence, which increases his truly stupendous level of magical power. In the end, Ryoka is a mortal. Though she understands immortals far better than most of her kin, she cannot change her nature. For a moment, she went blow for blow, for one perfect instant. But reality is reality. Nevertheless, immortals are nothing if not principled creatures. Their principles may not make sense to we mayflies, but they nonetheless exist. And a human who can face a creature like that for even a moment is certainly deserving of respect. For a moment, clarity. For a moment, perfection. For a moment, we can live forever. But now our stick of time has ended, and time will once again move on. And it's for these reasons, and countless more besides, that I love The Wandering Inn, Volume 2. Like and subscribe for more YouTube videos. See ya!